The article there is the article by Ms. Marianne. It was published in the Daily Maverick. And to remind you, the response from General Khan was, this journalist is a good friend of Jacobs and Veery. And again, Lieutenant General Jacobs is the subject of that media report. And then the officer replies, it's clear as all articles are written by a single journalist. Counter needs to be activated on this journal. And the date of that conversation is 17 January 2021. Chair, I wish to submit into the exhibit bundle CJC 366. That is a set of documents pertaining to an affidavit that we obtained this weekend from Ms. Marianne Tam. 366.1 is the affidavit itself. I'll take you to the affidavit, but what the affidavit shows is not 2 months later, after this exchange, Ms. Tam was the victim of a housebreaking in which 2 of her laptops were stolen. So it begins with Ms. Tam saying that she's a senior journalist at the Daily Maverick. That's on page 1 of the affidavit. Chair, if you don't mind, I won't read the entire thing, but only the relevant aspects. The second paragraph is where she describes the incident. She says, during the late evening of Saturday, 13 March 2021, I returned my house, she means to my house, situated on the corner of, and then she provides the address, to discover a break-in with my office ransacked, that is her home office, desk drawers emptied and pulled out, and my 2014 Daily Maverick Mac laptop stolen. Upon closer inspection, it became clear that the thief or thieves had also taken a personal MacBook Pro, which I had refurbished for my older daughter from her bedroom. This device had a Daily Maverick sticker on the casing. An iPad was taken from my youngest daughter's bedroom and a handful of jewelry, and then she describes the jewelry that was stolen. She says other large ticket items such as a flat screen TV, Bluetooth speakers, various cameras, and even a small amount of cash were left intact. She goes on to say that I informed the Claremont police station that evening. An officer arrived, took a look around, and registered the case. And she gives the CAS number, which is CAS 139/3/2020. But I believe that's a typo because this was in 2021. So it should be 139/3/2021. I was later sent an SMS by a Sergeant N. Getra to acknowledge this. On page 2, she says, at the time, the officer could find no entry point to my house, which was Warring. Only the following morning, when 2 other more senior officers arrived to take a statement, was it discovered that the intruders had entered the house by cutting the iron burglar bars outside the lounge window. The curtain had been pulled shut, which is why the SAPS official the previous night could not find any entry point. A fingerprint expert arrived a few days later and informed us that the intruders had left no prints and had worn gloves, as was clear from smudges around the window frame. In the rest of the affidavit, she provides some background to the incident and other attacks on journalists. And then she signs and dates it on page 3, the affidavit. She annexes to her affidavit 2 photographs. The first, which is on page 4, is a picture of her home office with drawers open. And the second on page 5 is the entry point. It's the picture with the burglar bars bent and the window opened. The attachments following that relate to the background information that Ms. Tam provided in the affidavit. And then, Commissioners, if you look at page 8, 9, and 10, this is information that we were provided by the SAPS, which they retrieved from their system. And probably the first is a description of the incident. We don't need to go into it. It's a repetition. It's the note that was taken by the officer who first attended the scene. The second is just a screenshot of the case details. And then on page 10, you'll see, again, it's information of the case details. It registers the station as Claremont and the CAS number and the incident. So it's confirmed from the side of the SAPS that this case was opened and this is what happened. The case was closed. No further detection was possible to determine who the perpetrators were. So that was the incident. Now,
please remind me, what was the date the journalist wrote this and that should be done about this journal? The date of that text. The date of the text.
17 January 2021.
Oh, all right, thank you.
And this incident took place on the 13th of March 2021. Now, Chair, I don't, this later housebreaking in March on this evidence alone can't conclusively show that it was linked to the WhatsApp exchange. But the sequence is alarming. And I raise it because it requires further investigation. It's a coincidence. It can't just be a coincidence. In my mind, which is why I think it needs to be referred.
That's exactly why I was interested in the closeness of the timing. Yeah,
that's correct. It was less than 2 months between the exchange and then this event. And then, as Ms. Tam tried to say, this is in the context of other attacks on journalists, which I also referred to on Friday. So, Chair, it warrants investigation also into whether General Khan or the other officer took any steps after the housebreaking to either distance themselves from it, given the fact that they had this exchange, or to ensure that there isn't any member involved or any state-linked actor that was involved in the housebreaking. And if General Khan were here, I would ask those questions, because if that had not taken place, then that omission too would be significant. So, what is disturbing is that on the face of it, you have a senior crime intelligence officer informing another member of crime intelligence that a journalist appears to favor particular senior police officers, one of whom happens to be General Khan's superior. That's Lieutenant General Peter Jacobs. The response from the other member is not, well, journalists be journalists. It's, we need to do a counter. And there's no evidence that General Khan said, no, don't do that kind of thing, or trying to prevent him from taking any, trying to prevent the other officer from taking any steps that may be inappropriate. So what it shows is that there's a willingness to use intelligence, crime intelligence capabilities and crime intelligence resources for the purposes of using those resources against a journalist who you are not comfortable with their reporting. It's not a lawful policing objective. It's for the investigation of a journalist whose view you don't like. And it's important. It's not just a semantic issue. It's one. Crime intelligence exists to analyze and gather information and intelligence for lawful policing purposes. So it's not a mechanism for monitoring and intimidating anyone, particularly journalists. And I must say that I should be clear. I mean, it's not to say that journalists don't get things wrong. Journalists do get things wrong. But the appropriate response would be to correct the information, to report it to the senior editor, to report to the press ombudsman. My point is that there are institutional responses that are more appropriate than activating a counter against a journalist.